Have you ever heard a story so incredible it makes you rethink everything? Well, we're about to jump into one. It's the story of a woman from the 6th century whose faith was so strong it actually literally changed the weather. Her name was Scholastica, and her story really makes you question what's more important, our rules or our relationships.
So let's just ask it straight up. Can a prayer actually change the weather? I know, it sounds like something from a fantasy novel, but believe it or not, a story that was written down almost 1,500 years ago says absolutely yes. Let's get into how. Okay, so to really get Scholastica's story, you first have to know about her twin brother. And he wasn't just any brother. He was Benedict of Nursia, a hugely famous figure. Their lives were completely connected, and their story together would end up shaping the course of Western Christianity. All right, picture this. It's around the year 480. The Roman Empire is crumbling, and these two twins, Benedict and Scholastica, are born into a noble Italian family. From the get-go, they both felt this pull toward a spiritual life. Benedict, he goes off and founds the now legendary monastery at Monte Cassino. And Scholastica, she starts a community for women just 5 miles down the road. They were on these parallel paths, chasing the same goal, but in their own separate worlds. And this is where you can really see their two legacies start to form. Benedict, he becomes known as the father of Western monasticism. He's creating this whole new way of life for men. And Scholastica, she takes her brother's vision and adapts it for women, becoming the very first Benedictine nun. Pretty amazing, right? Now, this next part is absolutely crucial for what's about to happen. The bedrock of Benedict's entire world was his rule. And listen, this wasn't just a list of friendly suggestions. It was a super detailed guidebook for every single part of life in the monastery, all based on two things: prayer and work. For Benedict, this rule was the law, no exceptions. And that brings us right to the heart of the story. This is the moment that has defined Scholastica for centuries. It's a tale about a brother, a sister, a rule that could not be broken, and a prayer that changed everything. Can you even imagine that? Seeing your own twin, maybe your closest friend in the world, just once a year? Because of the super strict rules that Benedict himself had written, this one annual meeting was it. They'd spend the whole day just talking about spiritual things, catching up on a whole year of life. So during one of these meetings, which would turn out to be their last one, Scholastica just had this feeling, She sensed she wasn't going to be around much longer. And as the sun started to set, she pleaded with Benedict, "Please stay the night. Let's just keep talking about God until the morning." But Benedict? Nope. He was the stickler for his own rule. He just flat out refused. He told her there was no way, it was absolutely impossible for him to spend a night away from his monastery. The law was the law. And right here, this is the conflict. Benedict's rigid rules versus this very human, very deep need for connection. Now, Scholastica didn't argue with him. She didn't try to debate. Instead, she just put her head down on the table and started praying. And when she looked back up, she said these words to her brother. Chilling, right? This is the moment the whole story just pivots. And get this, the second she finished speaking, the sky, which had been perfectly clear, just exploded. A massive thunderstorm just erupted out of nowhere. It was so violent, so sudden, that there was no way Benedict and his monks could even think about leaving. Her prayer was answered instantly. So, okay, a storm appears out of thin air. What's the big deal? Well, this isn't just a cool story about the weather. It's actually a really profound lesson about faith and love. Let's break down what it really means. The story sets up this amazing contrast. You have Benedict, who represents the head. He's all about logic, order, following the rules exactly as they're written, the letter of the law. But Scholastica, she represents the heart, love, connection, the spirit of the law. And her prayer shows that divine love is a higher authority than even the best-intentioned human rules. And hey, this isn't just some modern take on the story. The person who first wrote it all down, Pope Gregory the Great, he spelled it right out for us. He said the reason God listened to Scholastica's prayer was simple. In that moment, she was more powerful because she loved more. Wow. So the big lesson that people have taken from this story for centuries is this. Rules are good, rules are important, but they exist to serve us, to serve love and compassion. When a rule gets in the way of that, well, maybe it's the rule that needs to bend. And the story doesn't end with the storm. This whole theme of love winning out over the law, it continues right into the final chapter of Scholastica's life, And it's just as beautiful and just as powerful. So, fast forward 3 days after that crazy night. Benedict is back in his cell, praying. He looks out his window and he sees this vision. His sister's soul leaving her body and flying up to heaven in the shape of a beautiful white dove. And in that moment, he knew. He knew she was gone. And in this one last incredibly moving act of love, Benedict had his monks bring her body to his monastery. And he didn't bury her at her convent. He laid her to rest in the tomb that he had already built for himself. Think about that. The man who wouldn't break his rule to spend one extra night with her made sure they would be united for eternity. So even today, all these centuries later, Scholastica's story is still so powerful. She's this amazing symbol of how charity and love can triumph over rigid thinking. She's the patron saint of nuns and of education, and yep, you guessed it, because of her story, people still pray to her for protection from storms. And that leaves us with something to think about, doesn't it? Her story kind of holds up a mirror and asks us, in our own lives, with the rules we have at work, at home, in our communities, when is it okay? When is it right to put the rulebook aside for the sake of love and connection? It's a tough question, and it's just as relevant today as it was 1,500 years ago.